Welcome back to Business Unconventional.
Be unconventional.
My co-host here, David, already has his nose in this book. It's called Reputation 360, Creating Power Through Personal Branding.
From Lida Citroen.
Citroen
Citroen.
en français, who is a corporate. We're really pleased to have
you. What do I know?
We're really pleased to have
French.
you. You are a superstar when it comes to corporate and personal branding, and you're based right here in Colorado. How did we get so lucky to have you here in Colorado?
You know, it's a place you get to and you don't want to leave.
So you
as fast as I could.
You are really good at helping people understand the individual brand, particularly personal brand. You just this past week were invited by the Colorado Women's Bar Association to speak to them about personal branding. I think that is terrific. How did that speech work out for you?
Fabulous. Everybody learned a lot.
I am sure you were a popular hit. And usually you do a lot of corporate training, but you are going to, for the first time I take it, you have a workshop you call it Power Up Your Personal Brand, and you are actually going to offer it this coming Friday on January 25th. It's open to the public, and people can go to your website, which is at Lida360. Lida is Lida 360.com/powerup, and they can register. And this is
get there quick.
Yeah, I just want to read what it says on here. It's a half-day workshop where you'll learn how to develop, design, and direct your personal brand. Lida, what is a personal brand? What's my personal brand? What's a personal brand?
You know, a personal brand is very similar to what we think about with a company brand. It's the reputation that you've earned over time through your interactions with people and your history in the community and the marketplace. And it's how you set an expectation with an audience to create a relationship. So businesses do this. We have a target audience. We think about how we want to position ourselves to that audience. But as people, we don't often think about that. That I am assigned opportunity because people either view me a certain way or they don't.
Who needs to care about their personal brand?
You know, the way that I kind of tongue-in-cheek answer that question is anyone who has customers, clients, or an audience that has opportunity for them.
It's not an idle question. Let me tell you why. Because I think that most of our listeners and most people would think, well, you need a personal brand if you're a motivational speaker. So you need a personal brand because you're out there training people. You need a personal brand if you're an author, maybe if you're a professional, a lawyer, an accountant. They don't think that a dry cleaning owner, a person who owns a dry cleaning business, or a person who owns we just had a guest in the studio, we taped a guest, and they're an inventor. People don't think an inventor necessarily would need a personal brand. They would think they would need a product brand. But your belief is that basically anybody who's interacting with the public would be smart to polish and study their personal brand.
Yes, and I think the public can be defined very differently.
Okay.
So I speak a lot at universities, and I teach students coming out of school how to make themselves more marketable by building a personal brand. I spoke to a large school district last year who had a bunch of bus drivers and administrators about building their personal brand to be the best bus driver, mechanic, administrator that they could possibly be. At the same time, I speak a lot in the professional services world and international corporations who have customer-facing teams. It's really anybody.
Is there a difference? Your workshop is called Power Up Your Personal Brand. Is there a difference between personal brand and visibility? Can you have a great personal brand but not be visible, or are the two inextricably connected?
Well, and again, I think they're connected, but the degree of visibility varies.
Okay.
I work with some professionals who don't want to be leaders. They don't want to be celebrities, and that's their strategy.
Some people are afraid of success.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But in terms of visibility and being known and being out there, this isn't a program that says we make you a celebrity. This is giving you control over being intentional of how you come across to other people, because other people are going to judge you. That's a human trait. We can't get away from that. But I want to teach people how to be in control of how they're judged and make sure that they're marketing themselves and promoting themselves and being in front of the right customers, the right clients or audiences that are going to help them.
Yes,
I'm reading your book here. I'm sorry.
It's
How to get in here?
It's good. You read quiet.
I'm already in number 50 at the 15th chapter here.
Okay.
And it says your visual brand image and body language.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you comment on that?
I do a lot of work in the visual aspects of brand. So, you know, first you do the introspection, then you have to do the outside. We think of image consultants and people who help us design our style, but the body language that we use to communicate can either reinforce what I believe to be true about you, or it can completely break it apart. And I've worked with a lot of very, very senior executives who have, the disconnect is really body language. Their eye contact, or the way they hold their head, or the fact that they
I've
don't...
become very self-conscious here.
What
What do you mean? Am I looking in the wrong way?
You're like the Steve Jobs.
Did I shave well this
What
morning?
are you talking about?
But she's right. You are, Lida, you are completely correct. You know, I think in many cases, we have a business-to-business audience. I think before you open your mouth, people have already judged you.
Absolutely.
When they're first meeting you. I think, and I don't know what you teach. I would love to take your course, and I don't know that I can come because we tape on the same day that you're teaching. But David and I would love to take your course. I think a handshake. I don't know whether you teach that, but it's funny when I meet somebody and I shake their hand, depending on what their handshake is. If they crush my hand, tells me one thing. If it feels like a soggy fish, it tells me something else.
A
right?
limp fish.
But
yeah.
there is so much non-verbal branding that goes on in interpersonal relations. I think that's pretty amazing. How much can a person genuinely create a personal brand that is not rooted in who they really are? So if I'm some type of personality where I'm not particularly outgoing, where I'm not particularly humorous, etc., can having a personal brand trainer such as you, can you help them through that?
You know, that's a great question. The place that I come from and the practice that I've built is all rooted in authenticity. So if you truly are not a funny, outgoing person,
Don't try to be
a branding process isn't going to make that,
Okay.
isn't going to fix that. Now, if you want to be known as more well-read or scholarly, there are things you can do to fix that. Sometimes it's just not being aware that the way you're presenting yourself, your wardrobe or your body language or the language that's coming out of your mouth is really detracting from your reputation. Those are easy to fix. But I don't ever try to turn somebody into who they're not.
So you're not a wardrobe, expert or anything?
Well, that's a part of what I do, but if it becomes a really big part of what I do, I'll bring in another expert.
When you take on individual clients, do you start with some sort of either personality or brand assessment? And what does that consist of? Is it head to toe? Are you looking at everything from what their Facebook page looks like and what their public speaking looks like to how they dress, and how do you, so I come to you and I say, I would like to maximize my personal brand. First, what do you assess me on?
Well, and typically people don't come to me and say, I want to maximize. The language isn't usually that. Usually it's someone who says, I've built a company and the meaning isn't there. Or I've built this company but I'm not feeling connected. Or my employees don't have a sense of mission. Or I want to change my life. I want to do something different. That's usually where it starts. And I do take them through what I call an intake. And that process I've developed it over years. It has a lot of questions around, how do you think you're known today? What do you think your strengths are? And then what do you think the community believes you to be known for? What are some of the ways that you think you're perceived? We talk a lot about target audience. Who do you want to be relevant to? You know, in financial services, you have to be very specific about your target audience. And then you create a strategy for that audience.
Yeah, publicist is something that Gene's been doing for me, and he's done an excellent job. But not everybody has that opportunity.
That doesn't fully embrace, though, David, branding, because branding is that could be a portion of branding, but it certainly isn't the whole thing. When you do have a client, and different professionals take different approaches. Typically, how long do you tell a client you need from the time they walk in your door and retain you the first time to the point that they feel that they now have the kind of personal brand that they want? Is that a process that takes years? Is that a process that can be truncated into a few months? How long does that take?
It depends very much on what the client situation is. I've had clients hire me because they're trying to position a company for sale, or there's trauma in the marketplace and they need to correct it quickly. Typically, I don't work for years. My attention span would kill.
Right. Do you tend to meet weekly with somebody once they're a client? Do you meet more often, less often? What's the time commitment to having somebody like you, who is a branding and marketing and communications expert, work with me?
If it's simply a refinement of your message and your personal brand, that can be done weekly, monthly. A lot of my clients are international, so we meet through Skype. Really, the reason I wrote the book is because the process can be made applicable to anybody. The clients who hire me are usually senior business leaders who are looking for a very specific strategy. But because I believe so strongly that everybody needs to focus on personal branding, the book can be gone through in a weekend, and you can start making those corrections.
Do you have any personal branding heroes or role models you can point to that people would say, oh, I know what she's talking about? Who do you think has a good or a great personal brand? Besides you.
Well, only because I'm consistent.
Yes.
And we tend to default to celebrities because everybody knows celebrities.
Right.
A lot of them are very well managed. So I don't typically work with celebrities. I have worked with some Denver Broncos because I bleed orange and blue. But and celebrities, and there you go, united in orange. But I don't work with politicians and celebrities. But I think I've been asked to comment a lot on Tim Tebow when he was in town, because I think what he represented and what he brought forward that I like to speak to is the consistency. He was consistent in his values. He was consistent in the way he approached scenarios, and so you felt like you got to know him as a person.
And the Jets tried to ruin his brand.
Can you rehabilitate a person's brand?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. That's usually what I get hired by very senior executives. Is something has gone wrong, there's been some trauma, the company suffered a trauma, they had a misstep, or they haven't maximized their power.
Donald Trump is a good brand.
He's a consistent brand.
Let's do this, David. We have to wrap up both our interview and this edition.
I don't want Lida to go.
I don't want her to go either. This edition of Business Unconventional, but our guest has been Lida Citroen, who is the author of Reputation 360, Creating Power Through Personal Branding. If you're interested in attending her half-day workshop this coming Friday, go to lida360.com/powerup. That's Lida, Lida, 360.com/powerup. We only got started, Lida, but it was a good appetizer, and we hope to have you back.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Thank you for your time.
You need to go learn from Lida.
Yes, you do. Learn from Lida. That sounds like
there you go.
She's a leader in learning. Okay.